And I would like to invite Diana James here to the panel. Thank you. Hi, Diana. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Excellent.
Apart from sitting here.
Diana is our police liaison for Westminster LGBTQ Forum. You want to tell us about what that means and what else you do?
The idea is to make, because the Westminster includes Soho, which is a major place for the LGBT community to meet and to party, to have a drink and to talk, everything else like that. And it's a major place for perhaps nationally and within Europe. Soho is seen as the place to go. So naturally, when you get a large amount of people from a certain community there, you're going to get those that hate that community or disparage that community are also going to see it as a viable target area, and they will then use that area as a place to vent their hate, their spleen. And the idea of the forum is to actually try and reduce that, make it a safer space. That includes liaising, which is my role, liaising with the police to enable them to improve the area for us. And it's talking to businesses as well about how they can improve the situation, how they can change the CCTV to cover certain areas. Although the CCTV is a bit of a rough spot at the moment because the major parts of the CCTV in the area are switched off because the funding ended to cover that. So therefore, a lot of the area is not covered by public CCTV, only by businesses.
Oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I'm quite shocked. We have heard from the other panelists that there is clearly a case of underreporting. Hate crime gets underreported nationally. What kind of reasons do you think specifically women from the LGBTQ plus community might have for the report?
The reasons are varied. There's historic reasons for the way that lesbians have been treated by the police over the years. We can go back to late 80s, early 90s when there was a spate of corrective rape for lesbians going on at that time. And the reporting to the police was a very negative experience. Oh, what do you expect? You were looking for a stiff dick. These kind of things happen, looking like you do, what do you expect? It's that kind of thing, that kind of reaction. And that historic reaction has rolled through. So younger lesbians hear it from older lesbians that was their experience. So therefore, that becomes their reality. There is also, in recent times, there has been, for instance, the cases recently around one is currently under trial for rape. Another one's been convicted for rape and murder. So going to the police, do you feel comfortable to do that? And there's been historic reasons within a wider LGBT community for reporting hate crime anyway. Will it be taken seriously? Will there be something done about it? Working with the police, I know generally speaking that yes, it is taken seriously. Generally, there will be something done about it, even if it's only just making a note that it's happened. As the previous speaker said, that does then, when you've got a finite number of reports, then resources will be targeted to that area because crime rates go up. The police's job is to reduce crime rates.
So it is important to report again, and I want to highlight this.
Yeah, it is important to report, but it is important to report if you feel safe to do so. You can't tell a woman to report something if that is going to re-traumatize that woman to make that report. Because we know, for instance, about rape and sexual assault, we know that the prosecution rate is incredibly low. We know that the actual final rate for getting a valid sentencing on that is even lower. So when 95% of men think they're going to get away with it, and only 5% of women think that they're actually going to get a valid offensive outcome, then a lot of women are going to say, well, why should I put myself through all that for that small chance of actually getting a prosecution at the end of it? So they'll be re-traumatized again and again and again through the process. And a lot of women know this. This is not news to most women. So therefore, the amount of work that's got to be done to change that is enormous.
What kind of things need to be done to change that?
Well, I'm going to say you can start on the basis of, you can go back to the beginning. This society itself is a misogynistic society that we live in. I mean, say society, the societal pressures on young women from times of birth to time of death is there. We're socialised to act in certain ways. So therefore, we almost socialised to be a victim. So therefore, we've got to change that. But that is almost like, let's begin the revolution now. I mean, that goes back to my youth, of wanting to do that. Let's change society as a whole. But that obviously isn't going to be there for the woman walking home tonight, tomorrow, next month, next year. This is going to be taken a long time. So we have to look at it in the distance rather than looking at it as immediate. I don't like that, but it's unfortunately a reality. But there's women out there fighting for that every day, and we need to support those women doing that.
How can we support them?
By when they need our support, because those women will say, well, can someone tell us about things? Can someone help us with these things? Can someone give us that support? Will women get together to support what that woman's doing? It's going to be women that change this. I mean, so there's going to be some really good, great guys out there wanting to help to change that. But basically, if we want to engender that change, we're going to have to do it. Nobody's going to do it for us, because the people that are in a comfortable position where they are, because all men gain from rape, all men gain from sexual assault, whether they don't want to, whether they're reviled by that thought. It could be the nicest man in the world walking down the street. You're still going to cross the road, or many women are still going to cross the road. So that man's gained has been empowered by that abuse.
Wow.
Sorry. But every woman here knows that. Every woman here, if not knowing it verbally, knows it instinctively.
Yeah. Let me bring you back to figures. Just to bring the topic back to reporting figures. We know that homophobic hate crime and transphobic hate crime, the figures are increasing. It's being reported more. And we've heard that it is being reported more. People feel more comfortable reporting. There is online. It can be reported online. But what else is making that increase?
Because there's an increase in... my voice went up. There's an increase in hate crime. There has been an increase, especially since things have started opening up. They've not only opened up for women to go out, for our community, the LGBTQIA+ community, to go out. They've also opened up for the abusers. And those abusers have been shut away for ages. They've not had anywhere to, other than online, has been mentioned, to vent their hate. So now they're feeling free to do that. There is also seems to be a culture now of anger amongst many people. There's anger about people wearing masks. There's anger about people not wearing masks. There's anger around people getting the vaccine. There's anger against people not getting the vaccine. So society itself, as it's opening up, is becoming slightly more of an angry society. Also, people haven't been together for periods of time. So people are now rubbing up against each other, and they're not necessarily liking it or liking those groups. So I think that is increasing that hate, and therefore that's increasing hate crime. That is not saying that it's anywhere near the amount of hate crime that's taking place, because even going back to 2018, there was Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary report called Making a Difference, and that acknowledged the fact that underreporting is incredibly endemic. It's endemic for women, it's higher for the LGBT community, it's incredibly underreported for the trans community, because they're already in a very vulnerable position, and they've gone through years of hate from the public, from the newspapers in particular. It's like every Sunday, it's a constant drip of hate. It's the BBC, I mean, I say who we thought was valid and balanced reporting. That has not been good. It's been programmes made by Channel 4 where they've actually got people drunk to sit on their sofas and to spout hate, shouting dick every time a trans woman spoke. This level of hate for that community has been enormous, and as a community we must stand together. We must stand together as women, and we must stand together as an LGBT community, because they'll pick one off. Who's going to be the next in our community they pick off? Because they won't be satisfied with one.
Yeah. Is there any other impact you think COVID might have had in hate crime?
Not that I can think of. No, I mean, say it's the main impact was it's releasing those feelings, those pent-up abusive feelings from people. They've got another way of expressing it, so they'll pick what they feel of as a vulnerable community, and that vulnerable community will be, as previously been said, someone that's smaller than them, someone that's different to them, and that difference will be race, religion, disability, being female. There will be all kinds of different ways of them to express that abuse. And we're talking mainly men that will feel free to express that abuse. Women can be abusive, do not get me wrong, but generally speaking, men have a propensity for that because they feel entitled to say what they want to say, specifically as well to women or someone they see as more vulnerable than themselves.
What in terms of reporting, what needs to happen? What can be done to help people or encourage people to report more?
There needs to be a change in the way that reporting is done, the way reporting is done by victim survivors of abuse. That needs to change. The attitude needs to be changed because it's first contact. The thing that makes the most impact on a person is the first time they speak to someone to make a report. That can be a third-party report to an organisation, for instance, like Gallup or somewhere else, or it can be to the police themselves. It's that first contact. That is the most important, because the wrong word, the wrong attitude immediately will shut that down and that person will withdraw.
So what can be done in that?
That needs training, that needs an attitudinal change amongst certain people. It means getting the right person in the right place to do that work.
What else can be done apart from that?
It needs to be advertised about what is a hate crime. I mean, say, how many people here know what's a hate crime and what is a hate incident? How many people will know what is a sexual offence, what isn't a sexual offence? I mean, say, for instance, like upskirting. I mean, say, generally speaking, women have been shrugging that off for years, trying to slap it away, shrug it off and stuff. Do you now know what a serious offence that is if you report it and that person's convicted? They can get up to 2 years in prison, and they go on the sexual offenders register, which means they will not get a DBS check, which means a large amounts of employment are banned to them. So reporting such things has an impact. But that woman's got to know that information. Is that information out there? How many women here knew that? That those offences were that strongly dealt with now? So if we don't teach women about an LGBT community, about what these offences are, how can we expect them then to report them? Because if you don't know it's an offence, how are you going to report it? So it's education on both sides. The police need to get that word out better. The Crown Prosecution Service needs to lower its barrier to prosecution and not constantly look at, every offence that we prosecute has got to come out as a good figure for us. Sometimes there is a balance between what you know is going to get a conviction and what is good for the public good to be seen to be happening, to be seen to be taken seriously.
In terms of education and awareness, we are in the Hate Crime National Awareness Week, and what else can be done? Like, I guess this is an important.
It's not a week.
Yeah.
Hate crime is not a week.
Yeah. But what else
mean,
can be done apart from this to educate people?
It's a matter of getting that awareness out that hate crime exists and the impact. I mean, say we had the talk about how hate crime impacts mental health, and that's enormous. I mean, to say the hate crime impacting the mental health. I'm picking up on trans people particularly at the moment because the Hate Crime Awareness Week concentrated on trans, and rightly so, is to stop these trans people from leaving their own homes. It's saying, you, as a trans person, you can't go to a public toilet. I mean, say that might seem small until you realise, well, does that mean that that person cannot leave their own house unless they starve themselves of water all day so that when they go out into the public, they can't use a toilet? Is that what that's saying? That is imprisoning a person within their own home. People don't see the effect that these things can have. Oh, it's common sense. That's not common sense. If a man wants to attack a woman, he doesn't stick a frock on and go into a toilet. He attacks a woman in a park. He rapes and murders her. He attacks a woman wherever he wants because he knows that he's got 95% chance of getting away with it. Why would he put a bloody frock on and do it? The men that do this kind of thing don't do that. So this is not happening. This is made up crap, basically. It's putting women in a place where they don't need to be. Sorry, I get very passionate about hate crime.
What else can we do as individuals?
As our police colleague said, reporting is important. It really is important because the more reporting there is, the more it will be realised how much there is out there. Yet there has got to be the self-defence of the person that's reporting, because if that's really going to negatively affect your mental health, your feeling of security, and how you're going to live that life, then you've got to look after yourself. Talk to other, if you're not sure about reporting to the police, talk to another organisation. In the LGBT community, there's a fantastic organisation called Gallup. They're online, they're personed by people from our community that you can talk to. If it's a woman, talk to Rape Crisis, talk to domestic violence charities like Refuge or Women's Aid. They're there to give you advice. They're not there to tell you, oh, you've got to report this to the police. They're there for you, not for anyone else. And so they will give you good advice and good help about what you think you should do, not telling you what you should do, because that's just re-victimizing you again, placing you in a vulnerable position.
So if from the point of view of us as individuals, what can we do for someone who has been a victim of hate crime? How can we support them?
Believe what they have to say, support what they have to say, and support their decision. You may disagree with their decision. You may have good reasons to disagree with their decision, but giving them information to make their own decision is important. You cannot decide for someone else what they should and shouldn't do, but be there to support, understand, believe, and be there for what they need, not for what you need.
Thank you very much, Diana.
Pleasure.
Cheers.